Meeting. Thanks, Rob. I'd like to call the meeting to order, May 20th, 2025. Thank you to all the board members for being here. Thank you to the staff for preparing the agenda and all the work in the intervening time. We have minutes that have been circulated to the board from April 15th. I trust everyone's had a chance to review them. Is there any suggestions for changes?
And they be accepted.
Mike, thank you. Do we have a second to accept the minutes? Tara, thank you. Any further discussion? If not, everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That carries. I just want to take a moment to recognize our newest board member, Tony Fiala. Welcome to the board.
Think about.
Take a bow. As you recall, the former board member Christine Marchuska resigned from the board, and so there's a vacancy. That particular board position is nominated at the recommendation of the county executive. And we're pleased that you've joined the board, so thank you. For those who don't know, Tony, he comes with a wealth of housing background, which is a big help to us here in the land bank. Do you want to just give a minute, introduce yourself for anybody who doesn't already know you well?
I'm the new Commissioner of Planning and Economic Development, appointed through the legislature from the County Executive's Office. Had a great opportunity working already closely with the land bank on some good initiatives that we're looking at actually the next few days. So I thank Jess and Rob, and especially Aaron, for the kindness and working together. I think we've got some good things going on and looking forward. There was no honeymoon stage with the job. So up and running, and I appreciate the opportunity. A lot of you I do know, and look forward to working with everybody. So thank you.
Great. We know you're going to be a very helpful addition to the board, so
I
thank you.
appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, I don't think there's anything else for my remarks. Just so everybody knows, we have a couple of guests right on cue. Nick, welcome. The executive director will give her report. There'll be a chance for any members of the public to comment, and then we'll jump right into the new business. I know at least one of our guests is interested in item number 6, related to a tipping fee waiver. That will be at the top of the business agenda, so you're not sitting around here for an hour or more waiting for us to get through the regular business. So once the executive director report happens, there'll be a time for public comment, and then we'll go right to that item, Mr. United. So you'll be at the top of the agenda.
Mark. United.
Mark, thank you. Jess, would you please give an update to the board?
Yep.
Thank you.
Our city ARPA and HCR's Land Bank Initiative Phase 2 rehab project updates. Currently, the land bank has 9 properties in our inventory, included, well, not in our inventory, but included in the city's ARPA program. With 1 more property nearing acquisition or closing or real close on 5 Tremont Ave. Malarkey Construction is continuing their work at 8 Gray Street, 170 Moeller Street, and 33 Elm Street. Each project is going smoothly. As the board may be aware, we've had some unanticipated delays at each project due to the amount of rain this season. A lot of our exterior work is on hold until we have a few nice days in a row where we can do some painting, dig some holes, put some posts in, do some foundation work, things of that nature. So we just don't want to move forward if there's not going to be a nice few days so everything can cure properly. So I do anticipate, having to, extend those projects a little bit longer, but within reason. My goal is to have 8 Gray Street completed first and listed for sale by the beginning of summer. That's my goal. 33 Elm Street to follow, and 170 Moeller Street last. Clearview Door and Window is well underway, 14 McNamara Ave. We've paid out approximately half of the contract to date. We have an item on today's agenda to consider an asbestos abatement contract for 4 properties, including our next 2 rehabilitation projects in the city, 27 Columbia and 5 Tremont. The deadline to submit proposals for our 21 Walnut Street RFP is next Friday, May 30th by 4 p.m. As a reminder, the plan is to offer $100,000 in ARPA funds, as well as allow the respondent to apply for up to $150,000 in VRP funds to assist with the project. Just so the board is aware, I did have a conversation with the HCR about the minimum prioritization criteria set by the agency and its applicability to the project. The prioritization criteria set by HCR is local property owners and small real estate portfolio. So we determined together that this specific RFP is encouraging a certain type of developer to undertake the project, which comes along with carrying cost, experience, et cetera, similar to 3 King Avenue, something like that. A lot of mom and pop landlords don't have the ability to carry costs. This is why, under our VRP program, I propose that, the land bank contract directly with the contractors, so the property owners don't have to front the costs first and then seek reimbursement afterwards. So we in OCR recognize that waiving either or both criteria for local residency or small real estate portfolio may be necessary to achieve our goals with this project while using both sources of funding. OCR reinforced or directed that majority of all VRP funds within the program itself across the state will need to be allocated to those property owners who fit the small mom and pop landlord profile, which is surely our intent. But as the board is aware, HCR has asked us to pursue this particular project under this type of style. So Rob and I issued a very short addendum to the solicitation to this effect, and that the land bank will work with the awarded developer and may be willing to waive certain program eligibility criteria to make the project a reality. That said, an OCR acknowledges that the land bank's disposition policy takes priority as it relates to all of our projects. In total, with all potential projects in the works, we will be meeting the minimum ARPA obligation of 10 rehabilitation projects, 8 single-family and 2 two-family homes. But we are always looking for more projects, and we'll continue to work with the county administration, legislature, real property to identify properties not only for our ARPA program, but all the land banks programs. One very brief update on where we stand financially with our ARPA funds. When all 10 projects are complete, we believe we'll have enough funding remaining for one more general construction contract for a single family home, bringing our final deliverable to 11. Our county ARPA and Land Bank Initiative Phase 2 demo project updates. We have an item on today's agenda to consider an asbestos abatement contract for 4 properties, including completing the removal of friable asbestos at the former Food Fusion restaurant in West Endicott. With that, our intent is to issue a demo package in a few weeks, which would include the restaurant, 61 Park Avenue and 26 Overland Drive in the city of Binghamton. We would plan to demolish the former restaurant following the Dick's Sporting Goods open in July. Our land bank initiative operating funds, operating year number 3 is well underway, and it's due to end in about 3 months. We did receive our most recent reimbursement request for just over $67,000 last week. Just as a reminder, this is the final year of LBI operating funds unless HCR renews the program, which we believe they will, as there was funding included in the 24-25 New York State budget under the aid to locality section. Land Bank Initiative Phase 2 capital funds. We're continuing to move through the grant on our deliverables. As of right now, we've spent over 97% of our current award and have a little over $34,000 left, which has been earmarked to assist with our current projects. I trust the board read my email on Friday, but we've included an item on today's agenda to consider an impending award for $2 million in Land Bank Initiative funding. It's our understanding that our request has been approved by HCR and that we should expect the award letter and grant agreement sometime this week. As a reminder, we intend to utilize this funding to continue our respective countywide programs, including rehab and demo projects. Our vacant rental program, as you all are aware, the land bank was awarded our full ask of just over $1 million in VRP funds from HCR. IdeaCraft and Ad Elements have been great with implementing the marketing plan. The metrics on the ad so far have been phenomenal. There's been so much interest in the program. HCR is really impressed with the data that we're sharing with them and the amount of interest that we've received directly from Meta and from Google. I don't know, Rob, if you wanted to give just some statistics on that.
Sure. Just briefly, as it relates to our ad totals, we've reached over 87,000 unique individuals, which has generated a little over 300,000 total impressions. From our online advertising, it's generated about 500 total clicks. As it relates to the VRP website page, in total, we've had about 3,000 total page views of the VRP page.
Unique, Rob, unique views or?
Those are total views.
Yeah.
As it relates to unique users, it's in the lower, like 1,500 or so. That's
Still very good.
and to date, the VRP application has generated almost 500 downloads.
And how many applications have we received? In various states of
Various
completion?
states of completion, about 30.
Okay.
Mhm.
Good.
Yeah. So, and they range from all over the city of Binghamton, Towns of Union, Vestal, and even the Village of Deposit. And to Aaron's point, there's a handful of applications that we've received, which just on, face value, just simply do not qualify. A lot of folks are submitting applications that own enormous amounts of real estate that just simply don't meet the the point program and the mission program. And then there's there's other applicants that we're just kind of trying to chase them down for missing documents. So we give that a pretty good run, and then eventually we kind of just move on to the next if we don't hear back. So right now we have our CMs looking at, currently, I've directed them to look at, I think, maybe 10 or 11 properties. So they're moving through all of that and giving us their feasibility reports as we move forward. One thing I do want to mention is a lot of what we're seeing come through in applications are properties that have been vacant for an extended period of time, with very little stabilization or maintenance work, if any at all. So the reality with that is some of the applications we've received, we've had to deny or reject because the required scope of work well exceeds the available subsidy, and the property owner does not have additional or sufficient funds to fill in the gaps. By this, I mean, it's not just like they're missing, potentially $5,000, $10,000. I'm saying they're missing like, $100,000, maybe $150,000, because a lot of the properties or a lot of projects that we're seeing look very, very similar to land bank homes before we renovate them. And it's just not, at that point, it's just not.
$75,000 is not gonna renovate that into a
No.
livable space.
No, and so there's what we're working through right now, and obviously it's a new program. We need to try to find a way to bridge the gap in between what property owners believe the renovation of their unit may cost and what it actually costs. Because when I expressed to some of these property owners, like there was this one property that we had where the unit was completely demolished to its studs. There was nothing in there. So, a sheet of drywall right now costs $50 to $60. So we have to drywall the entire unit, flooring, new plumbing, new electricity, everything. And it's just,
You're not gonna do that. for
it's not gonna
$75,000.
happen. So, just trying to aid on the side of caution, we asked the property owner if, we gave them, what our estimated conservative estimate would be, and he disagreed with that. So, and it's understandable. So, we always give folks an opportunity to present us with another option, and, I'm still waiting on that. So, but with that being said, there's a handful of projects that I feel very, very confident in. But before we move forward, I just want to make sure our CMs get an eye on it and give us an idea as to what they think is feasible.
Jess,
Yep.
can I interrupt for a second?
Mhm.
So with those units where there's a reasonable gap that the current owner can fill, but for whatever reason, they do fail to fill in that gap. Something unforeseen happens, and the 5,000 or 10,000 they were planning to put in themselves doesn't materialize.
Mhm.
What happens if for an incomplete renovation? Are we still on the hook to
So,
pay their things and then
Yeah.
leave a 3/4 finished apartment?
what we
in
have to
limbo?
do is whatever that quoted amount comes in at, I need a certified check and escrow.
Okay,
So that funding will be in our account to use if we need it.
At what point do they get paid?
The contractor?
For the,
Contractor,
yeah,
we pay it,
We
right?
pay, yeah, we're gonna enter into a contract directly with the contractor.
okay.
But we prefer not, well, Rob and I are preferring not to go back and forth with the property owners.
We really don't wanna get in a situation. If we make an agreement with a contractor, we're gonna stand by
Yeah.
that
Okay,
agreement,
okay.
which is why they structured it that way.
Yeah, it may be a little bit more paperwork for us and kind of more resolutions for the board to
No,
consider.
safe. No.
But it's like, rather than chasing folks around to make sure that they paid it and everything like that, and then a lot of property owners lack the existing capital to send that out first and then be reimbursed on the back end, so, yeah. So that being said, we have an item on today's agenda to consider an award to an eligible property owner, which is really exciting. We do have several more that are feasible, but a bit more complicated to move forward immediately without fleshing out the details. I expressed to the board a few examples, but there is one unit that's riddled with lead-based paint, but overall decent shape. So we'd like to pair either with Greater Opportunities Leading Lead Program or the Health Department's HUD grant to assist a little bit. Another example is a property that's essentially demolished to studs and it's clear. our allowable subsidy will not cover the work that's needed. At this point, we still have more applications than we have funding for. We have opened another round to accept applications with the caveat that we're still working through those that were submitted by the first initial deadline. I feel fairly confident that we'll be able to allocate these funds by the end of the year. The New York State Legislature allocated an additional 40 million for this program, so we expect an open RFA later this year. Our small business tipping fee waiver program, there is an application before the board to approve a small business tipping fee waiver for the demolition of a property in the city of Binghamton. The applicant is here with us today to answer any questions that may come up. Our administrative and housekeeping items, we have 2 items on our agenda for both architecture and engineering services and environmental testing service term contracts. We are recommending 3 firms for AE services and 2 firms for environmental testing. These contracts will be for 2 years with an optional 1-year extension, similar to the last time we did this. And the New York Land Bank Association's conference is this Wednesday evening into Thursday and is being held in Oswego. Both Rob and I plan to attend as it's a 1-day conference, and we'll be sure to report back to the board on everything we learn.
Good. Thank you, Jess, for your efforts. Rob, thank you for your efforts. Any questions for Jess or Rob on the executive director's report? Good. It was very thorough then.
Thank
We
you.
covered it we needed to. Thank you. Okay, let's move on now to public and community advisory panel comments. This is the portion of the meeting where we invite anybody from the public who have any comments on items at least loosely related to the land bank to address the board for a period of not more than 5 minutes. We would ask that you just please introduce yourself and state where you reside if you wish to comment during this period. Does anybody who wishes to comment? Okay, seeing none, we're going to declare the comment period closed. We're going to move on now to new business. Item number 6, resolution authorizing the executive director to enter into an agreement with MB Yanati Development LLC to utilize a portion of the land bank's tipping fee allocation for the demolition of 38 Pine Street in the city of Binghamton. Jess, would you please start by briefly summarizing to the board what we have before us?
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
this property has actually been on the city of Binghamton's radar for quite some time. My understanding is that Corporation Council issued a notice to the previous owner to rectify the fire damage as soon as possible, either bring it back to life, or recommendation was to demolish it because it was more than 50% damaged. So that notice was issued, I think, last fall. So this is a property that's been on the city's radar. So my understanding from Mark is that he just recently purchased this property, closed on it, so it is in his title, and his intent would be to demolish it using his own funds, using LCP Group as the contractor, I believe. And he's seeking up to a $15,000 tipping fee waiver credit to assist with the tipping fees at the landfill. It will come down as an ACM demo, so any asbestos in place, that's because it's just so fire damaged, nothing can be abated prior to that. So just a typical small business tipping fee waiver application. And I would let him speak a little bit more about what he proposes to develop, but my understanding is he'd like to create additional parking for the VA next door.
This is the one as I was driving over here and turned onto Court Street and passing the VA that you can see in the back of it because it's burned to the point where there's no like back of the house. You can see inside of the like attic or whatever might have been there. So I think it probably is pretty clear what has to happen. But Mark, would you wish to say anything about the project, and then we'll sort of allow questions from the board?
Sure. Board, good afternoon. Basically, the previous owner, well, the house has sustained a fire where the city deemed it condemned. This was over 16% damage. From that point on, it became somewhat of a messy situation because the current owner had been in default with this lender. I had expressed an interest of the city condemned it, that I would be interested in purchasing the land if they tore it down because there's a need for additional parking at the Veterans Outpatient Clinic. The short of it is that the lender intercepted the insurance proceeds and would not release the funds for demolition. But eventually relieve him of any of his financial obligations. So he probably where the sources to carry it down. So was basically signed over to me for the purpose of utilizing my funds to demolish the property. There's no upside for me with the VA. I'm not charging them. I can't charge them any more money, just simply adding additional parking for them, getting rid of light. It was either the city come in and tear it down at their expense. So we're asking the city saving some additional money because they intend to recover the money from the owner. He doesn't have it. So that's basically story behind it, and I welcome any questions.
As you know, I think, Mark, I lived in that neighborhood for many years, a decade or more. It's an area that is going through some transition, both good and bad, I guess, maybe possibly. I know the mayor's doing a lot of work over my old neighborhood to try to, address some of the issues, but the VA clinic that's there has been a big improvement in that area. Thank you for that project. That house I'm very familiar with because it needs to go. So thank you for stepping up and doing that. What's that?
At this point, it does.
It does, it does. I mean, not everything has to
There's
go.
nicer houses in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Till 31st.
Mhm.
Some things can be saved, some can't. That's burned out, it can't be saved. But thank you for stepping in and doing that and anything we can do to support the veterans clinic seems like
I
an
appreciate
obvious
it. Right now, there's constantly issues with squatters in the house.
Yeah.
Even though the fire department has broken up the building, but it's a constant issue.
We're familiar with that problem too. We own a lot of different stuff where, my gosh, you could put a 50-foot fence around it, it just doesn't matter, right? It's just, we're in a crisis situation where people need help, right? And they're struggling to find places to go. If something's vacant, it ends up being a place they look at. So, anyway, that's it from me. Are there any questions for Mark on his proposed project?
Yeah, I just every time someone comes before us, just they have to be the owner, so I always check IMO, right? And so clearly it's been updated. So just, can you provide verification that that's the.
We have it.
We have the deed. Yep.
Yeah,
we're all set.
I understand the town is just delayed. I closed literally at 1:30.
That's county clerk's office, Mark, you just can't.
Yeah.
Right, Rich, anything can happen, you know?
But yes, everything's there and
I will say Chris got us the book number this morning, actually, so we're all set on that.
Good job,
Yes.
yes.
by the way, there was back tax. As well, so it's
Yep.
just not asking for something from,
Yep.
there's a investment.
And to Tarek's point, I mean, we had talked about this previously too. We have been in situations where we've prospectively approved one of these and it turns out, oh, we're closing tomorrow, trust me, right, kind of thing. And
Yes.
things happen for whatever reason. So it's not you, it's just the question we always ask. Yeah.
You don't want to cut off the wrong arm.
Mhm.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. Tarek, Rich, you had something?
Yeah, I will make a motion to advance this, but before I do, I just want to say, I remember working with you on that veterans project. It's great, not only for the veterans community, but for the city as a whole. That block was a big mess.
Yep.
Long before that, and Mark has a solid track record of doing good downtown and across the city, and I don't think many people recognize how bad things were in that particular stretch. And you competed very hard to with the federal government, Veterans Affairs, to get that building not only for the city of Binghamton, but for the veterans that it serves. And you've been working in the periphery of trying to. I think this is not the first building you've acquired to expand parking. It's the second, third, but you continue to invest in that area. It's good for downtown. I think it's a no-brainer. You are saving the city of Binghamton from resources. It's just a good project.
Appreciate it.
So, congratulations.
Thank you.
Good, thank you. Any other comments? We have a motion on the floor from Rich. to authorize the executive director to enter an agreement with MB Unati. Is there a second on that motion? Mike, thank you. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries. Jess will be in touch.
Thank you. Just a quick question.
Yep.
Timeframe wise, once, if you can.
Very important question. Yes.
So-
Don't just show up there tomorrow with debris. They get cranky.
Remind me, Christina and Larry are they're the contractor, right?
Yes.
Okay, Christina is very well aware of our program, so I did email her earlier today in the anticipation that this would be approved. I asked her for an update on a condemnation notice from the city and a demo permit. Those are the two things that I need to put a package together and send it to the landfill. So I can work, if she can get me that paperwork today, I can get that package out tomorrow. You can demo 5 business days from there. Rob and I will be at a conference on Thursday, but if she can get me that paperwork in the next few days, I can work on it on Friday, and then you guys should be all set for the beginning of June.
Okay.
The short of it, Mark, is that once all that's received, they need about 5 days up at the landfill for us to.
Prepare to have
Yes.
staff there to bring the ACM material in, because when LCP brings it in, they gotta have enough staff to cover the asbestos.
Otherwise, they get very unhappy with us if one of our demo contractors shows up there without them knowing. This leads to consternation that none of us like, so this could be very quick. You could be
Yeah.
demoing next week,
Mhm.
you know? All right,
My ears. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're gonna request a condemnation letter from the city.
That's what the landfill needs in order to waive the pre-demo asbestos survey. They need a condemnation notice on the municipal letterhead. Yeah, it's.
That way they
And then-
know that you're bringing stuff up
We
mixed.
used to, I'll make a point, we used to be able to take like a condemnation recommendation from our structural engineers.
Right.
But then the Department of Labor cracked down on that because it was essentially an organization's way of bypassing the municipality to getting something done.
Yeah.
So they want us going to.
That makes sense. Okay, good. Thank you, everyone. Item number 7, resolution authorizing the executive director to enter into an agreement with Tiana Anderson to utilize a portion of the land bank's vacant rental program funding for the rehabilitation of 7 Carter Avenue in the city of Binghamton. Jess,
Okay,
to brief the
yes.
board on this matter,
yes,
please.
just for the board's knowledge, this was the first application we received through the program. Tiana Anderson is here with us today. Thank you so
Welcome.
much for being here. So I'll just give a brief overview of your project. If I say anything wrong, feel free to correct me, and then they'll ask you some questions if they have any. So just ask the board to be a little patient with me and Rob, because this is the first application that's coming through, but we feel fairly confident that this particular project is in a state in which our subsidy will create a occupiable unit. Rob and I are, aiding on the side of caution with a lot of the applications we're receiving. If those are kind of on the brink of feasible versus not feasible, we're taking an extra look at this, but there's some pictures included, following the memo and the feasibility report put together by our CMs. The primary issue with this property is, Ms. Anderson bought it under the impression that it was a true 230, which is a 3-family home. It's what GIS says it is. She purchased it as that. And my understanding is shortly thereafter closing, the Binghamton Fire Department was the complainant, and code enforcement issued a condemnation notice for an illegal conversion in the attic and the basement. So now no fault of Miss Anderson, is just the way that she bought it, and quite frankly, how GIS recognized it. Rob and I took a look at a few different documents that code enforcement provided us. Actually, one of the opinions were issued by L2 Studio that we work with, but we're working with Miss Anderson, and L2 Studio expressed, yes, the height of the attic unit is non-compliant, and same thing with the basement. So in order to receive a certificate of occupancy for this property as a single family home, which is what its true form is, we would have to conduct some limited internal demo in those 2 units to put the city at ease and issue a certificate of occupancy, and then just some general repairs and updates or repairs and improvements to the actual unit itself. I know Ms. Anderson had a little bit of a water leak that just needs some repair, but generally speaking, we believe it to be a feasible project. So that's kind of the summary of the project itself. One thing I just want to inform the board of as it relates to administrative on Rob and my end, if you folks decide you want to approve this project, we wouldn't enter into an agreement with Ms. Anderson quite yet. We want to make sure that we get a lead-based paint risk assessment, targeted lead-based paint risk assessment done. I know she's already had a asbestos survey done by Jennings Environmental, and our understanding from Delta is that they could use that, so we're not recreating the wheel or incurring additional costs that we may not have to. But with those things, that would be then incorporated into the scope of work. And once we figure out like, okay, yes, this is very doable, then I'll enter into a contract with her. So I'll just kind of keep you folks informed of that. But
Okay.
right now, I just wanted to get your
We'll
eyes
get you in a second.
get your eyes on the project, so you know kind of what we're working on.
Good.
Mhm.
Okay. Ms. Anderson, it's your opportunity to briefly explain to the board, introduce yourself, briefly explain what you're looking to do here. We'll open it up for questions or comments after that. Thank you for being here.
My name is Tiana Anderson, and I'm looking to start a nonprofit to create more affordable housing here in Binghamton. I realized that there wasn't much housing here, and I went to high school here. I'm not really from the area of the city, but you know, I have family here and I want to make it home. And so that's really my main objective, is to create more affordable housing, create more livable housing. Just because if I wouldn't live there, I don't want anybody else to live. So that's the main reason why I bought 7 Carhart, was the intent to convert the whole home into affordable housing units. But I faced a lot of misfortune. This is my first home.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
So I did speak with L2 Studios, and they did say that it was possible to turn it into a duplex if we added a back rear entrance. But I don't know about ceiling height. We have to raise the ceiling height, that's the goal. So,
Yeah.
but if we do turn it into a single family, I do think this project is feasible. I have supplied some of my own funds. I took out a loan to fix the kitchen, and that was currently on pause due to the water break. That wasn't due to any of my negligence on my own end. I had a plumber come out and do an inspection report. I think it was just due to the soldering in the pipe, and it just came undone, and it kind of set me back a little bit more. So with this program, I'm really hoping to get the home fixed up and renovated and rent out to that really need it. In regards to the lead abatement, it's almost done. It's just from the doorway that needs to be scraped. But I did majority of the work on my own. I went and got my lead abatement
Well,
license, and I've been really trying hard to get this house up and running, and I really appreciate it.
thank you, Ms. Anderson. Just based on what you both said, a couple of comments if I could. One, working with L2 already and Jennings, both firms that we have a lot of familiarity with. That's great. That helps the board have more confidence. You know, a lot of people have a dream, but sort of making that dream into something is a lot of work. Seems like you're already doing that. The fact that you got certified to do the lead, that's pretty impressive too. So thank you for that. I think you addressed something and Jess sort of addressed it. We're confident that between the subsidy and the funds, and I'm gonna ask this every time, but the subsidy that we're offering and the funds that the applicant has at her disposal, that the project can be completed based on our construction manager's assessments.
Correct. Yes, we believe that, in comparison to some of the other applications we've received, these pictures are like 10 out of 10. I would say, I'm like, oh, when like, you know, because Rob and I are not going to the sites, our CMs are. So when they send back the feasibility report, I look at it, I'm like, wow, this looks great. This look, you know, it just needs a little bit of help. And
Yeah.
honestly, I will say, you know, before we get into the rest of the projects, this project right here is really what this funding is intended to support. Mhm.
And you have either the fortune or misfortune to be the first one
Yeah.
being considered through the pipeline. So I'm sure there'll be a bump or two, as long as you're patient with us, we're patient with you as well.
Yeah.
Good, good. Jess and Rob are two, I think. So that's good. The only other thing that I'd mention is I know you are, but I want to say it anyway. You're familiar with the requirements of the program as far as the qualifications that an individual or a family has to meet in order to qualify to rent under the program. You're familiar with that?
Yes. I
Good.
did.
Mhm.
In regards to how the renting part out would go, like how would the selection go, would I have a say in that, and,
You have all the say.
Yes.
With some
Yeah,
oversight,
I
right?
wanna make sure it goes.
Absolutely. So, our general expectations is that within 30 days of project completion, that you have a income qualified tenant or tenants identified. And then we will help you with the first batch of tenants. We will help you qualify them. We're working with SEP Group to do the qualification to ensure that everything is up to snuff. And then once we qualify them, then our expectation is that within 7 days of that, a lease is executed. So we really leave that up to you, but there are wait lists a mile long at all of our partner organizations. So if you have any trouble with that, we're more than willing to step in and help.
So a lot of the human service agencies have long wait lists of folks that need exactly what you're
Yeah.
doing.
Yep.
So like just coming from one that had 3 different programs, they're already meeting the specifications, they're already probably getting a subsidy. They could be also getting case management or have some kind of deterrent of help. So a lot of that work is done for you. So if they pre-qualify, you could also go then to another human service agency and say, look, I'm looking for X amount of folks. Can you help me with that?
Yep.
Okay.
And our intention, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah.
One more question. I plan to acquire more properties just for this reason.
Mhm.
If I decide to acquire in the future, because I understand it's a rolling basis, would I be denied because I would apply to the full answer?
So our policy allows us to consider applications from the same property owner. That said, right now, we have more applications than what we have funding for. But the state, our state legislature and the governor have allocated more funding in this program and the budget, so we fully anticipate to go apply for more. So that, that we anticipate more funding to be available at some point if we're successful in another grant application. So I would not suggest that you would be denied. I would say that, the land bank does reserve the right to consider applications from folks who have not been awarded in the past, but it's all subject to how we want to move forward in another.
I would say get a project under your belt, absolutely reapply again, right? That's what this program's there
Yes.
for. Takes time to apply, obviously, but you catch 0 fish that you don't cast a line for, right? So, I would just say to your point about, who to rent to. As long, and tell me if I'm speaking incorrectly, as long as it fits in the qualifications for those individuals or folks, and as long as you're charging the rent that's appropriate under the program, we are not gonna weigh in on whether you rent to him or her, right? That's up to you to determine that, so long as they qualify under the program guidelines. That's all we said. Yep. Right, right, Tara?
Yes.
Right.
It's not for the fair market rent.
Yeah.
Right.
I
Right,
knew they were good folks, like you out.
yes, those are exactly the kind of folks we're looking for. Okay, good. What other questions or comments do we have from board members for Ms. Anderson?
I don't have any questions for Ms.
Yep.
Anderson, but just given this is, limited funds,
Mhm.
we have 4 applications. How are you advancing them to us? Like on a
So-
piece by piece or is it a batch?
That's a good question, batch, right?
I'd love to do a batch. I'd love to do a batch. There was another application I really wanted to put forth today, but the property owner wasn't available she was out of town. The next one would be 18 McGatt Street in the first ward. It's a 2-family.
So they are just coming.
Kind of.
You were,
Yeah, as we're assessing whether they're.
you're doing the scoring.
Doing the scoring,
criteria,
So everything, so Tiana's, for example, hers is scored 100 points out of 100, 18 McGatt Street, 100 points out of 100.
All right.
So, yeah, so those are the ones that are coming to you first.
There was an internal date which you and Rob were
Yes.
using, right? To
Yes.
say anything by X date will be reviewed and considered and potentially brought forward here. And then by whatever date, that way it's not completely piecemeal.
Yeah.
Cause we'll go crazy
Yes.
that way, right?
yeah,
So you're gonna work, you and Rob are gonna work through this whole first batch before you move on
correct.
to anything that came after that date, sir, correct? Is
Yes.
that the approach?
Yes, and we don't wanna bring anything before you, that's a waste of your time. So it's like, yes, there are applications we've received that score 100 out of 100, right? Because those are all like fact-based prioritization criteria. It's a two-family, they live locally, they like whatever, what our prioritization criteria is, but then when we get into it, it's not.
It's gonna cost
it's not a
$300,000 to
feasible
renovate.
So
yeah.
we're documenting all of that. We have that on our end. So those projects that we're bringing forth to you are those that are scoring 100 and are feasible.
What's the total amount of money in this?
A little over $1 million. Yep. Yep. To go directly into the projects. We do have a program delivery fee, but that's largely CM services, qualification services, compliance monitoring services, things like that.
Yep, $75,000 a unit,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
So there's the rough
$50,000 to
math.
$75,000. Most
Right,
of the
yeah,
applicants
50,
are
75.
selecting 75.
I didn't ask that. You selected the $75,000 option. Yes,
That extensively. I just already talked to the contractor and I'm just like, I don't know how much it's gonna cost. So I've been trying to reach out to get funding, see where I can get loan where I can. I was able to secure a loan with Visions Federal Credit
Good.
Union. I had to start a business to do that in order to even secure that funding. So everything is really new to me, but I'm really dedicated to trying to revitalize the county.
excellent. We'd love to hear that. You've talked to some contractors. There's a list of
Yep.
pre-qualified contractors. You're not limited to use one of our pre-qualified. They just have to meet the
Meet the
qualifications and the lowest quote kind of situation. So look forward to working with you. Any further questions or comments from the board? Yes,
You keep saying qualifications, isn't there only one, isn't it just household income? I'm just curious,
Yeah, for the tenants.
And the tenants you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, tenants. Yeah, tenants.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. Okay, yes.
Make a motion to
Thank you.
approve,
We have a motion for Mr. Jajit, Chris, thank you, and you can sit down. Thank you. To authorize the executive director to enter an agreement with Tiana Anderson to utilize a portion of Land Bank's vacant rental program funding for the rehabilitation of 7 Carhart in the city of Binghamton. We have a motion by Chris. We have a second. Tara, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries. Congratulations. Now the real work starts.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for being the first one in too. We appreciate it. It'll be exciting.
Yes.
I'm excited. Okay, and I know Rob and Jess will be in touch, so. All right,
You're all set. You can head out and we'll be in touch. Sheila should be contacting you to start putting together a scope of work and everything like that. So
Thank you.
yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you for your time.
yep.
Yes.
All right, congratulations to you and Rob too, Jess, for the first program under the first project in the VRP program.
Thank you for being patient with
That's
us.
great.
We're gonna learn how to work through all this. So.
Yep, I can see what's happening, just even based on what you've told me sort of anecdotally.
Mhm.
Right, there's a lot of people with just really rundown places that need to be renovated, but really probably need $300,000 to do it, right? And
Yeah.
if they haven't done anything yet, they may not have the outside capital to make it happen.
Yeah. Yep.
So, but we can't solve every problem in Broome County, right? We're doing our part. All right, great.
hey, if we get 15 new units online, that's 15 more than we had
I agree.
Of course.
in
I
January.
agree. And she's inspiring. She's
Yes.
inspiring.
Yes.
So that's nice. Okay, item number 8. We have 2 items really, but we hit them both together and
Yeah,
then
of
we'll vote
course.
them together. Resolution to approve the aforementioned architectural and engineering design firms for two-year term contract with an optional year. And then we have resolution to approve environmental testing consulting term contracts for 2 years with an optional
Yep.
year 2. Do you want to brief the board?
Yep. So I trust that the board had a chance to read our memo. So we conducted interviews for architecture and engineering design professional services as those were based on, qualification based. So we interviewed 6 firms for that contract out of the 12 that submitted. So we interviewed all of our local firms, Delta Engineers, Keystone, Associates, L2 Studio Architecture, and Chianis and Anderson. And then we also interviewed a firm out of Rochester, that was a certified WBE in X architecture. And we interviewed a firm out of the Hudson Valley, Knowledge Architecture and Design. They are a service disabled veteran owned business. So after those interviews, Rob and I are recommending that we award the architecture and engineering design professional services to our incumbents, Delta Engineers, Keystone, and L2 Studio Architecture. Rob and I are really happy with them. We've asked, during the interviews, whatever challenges that we faced throughout the term, we asked, questions as relates to that, and how we can work through those challenges, and we feel fairly confident in those, the answers that we were provided. And then with the 2 firms that were out of the area that we interviewed, very qualified, have a lot of experience, but we just believe that they just may be a little bit too far away from us to give us the time that we need. If a wall comes crashing down, I kind of need somebody pretty quickly to go take a look at it. And being 2.5 to 3 hours away is a little challenging, but it doesn't mean that they weren't qualified and had the experience. So that's our recommendation for architecture and engineering. And then for environmental testing, professional services, we're also recommending our incumbents, Delta Engineers and Keystone. This was a proposal based, so it was largely cost based. And ability to turn around, the testing and the documents that we need. And, Delta and Keystone were the only 2 local firms that submitted.
Good.
Yeah.
We have, I know the answer is kind of a softball, but we've had good luck with these, or good relationships with these firms.
Yeah.
Even when there's a challenge, we've been able to get through it.
Absolutely. Yeah, every single time.
Okay.
Mhm.
Good.
question, were the fee schedules comparable local to the ones out of the area?
Okay, so for environmental testing, services, no. Our local firms were, well, actually Keystone was the lowest.
Yep.
Right? For HSE Consulting out of Syracuse,
Syracuse was very comparable to Delta as a
Delta.
close second.
close second.
The other ones after that were far and
Well,
away,
well,
way more expensive.
High, way higher.
Way higher, yeah.
And then with architecture and engineering, it's qualification based, so we ask for a rate sheet after we make a
Yep.
recommendation. So one of the things I did chat with the out of town firms for architecture and engineering, I did ask, because it's reasonable for them to want to charge mileage. And they said, yes,
Right.
and it's like,
Yeah.
our firms local here don't charge us mileage, so I don't know if that's
That's a factor.
yeah, it's a
right?
factor, it's a little bit of a factor,
Well, if you're driving from Buffalo,
Yeah.
it's gonna cost you a fair amount of money to drive here to do testing over a
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
couple of day period, or if you do a week period.
Yep.
Good. All right, so, any further questions, comments about this? All right, so we have 2 resolutions. One is a resolution to authorize the executive, resolution to authorize or approve architecture and engineering design firms for a 2-year period, and those firms are Delta Engineers, Keystone Associates, and L2 Studio Architecture. Do we have a motion? Mike, thank you. Do we have a second? Mayor, thank you. All those, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Carries. All right, number 9, resolution to approve environmental testing and consulting firms to a 2-year professional service contract with option of a 1 year. And we have 2 firms there, Delta Engineers, Architects and Land Surveyors, and Keystone Environmental Services. Do we have a motion? Rich, thank you. Do we have a second? Chris, thank you. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Is there any opposed? That carries. All right. Item number 10, resolution awarding a contract to Sunstream Corporation for asbestos abatement. Jess.
So we went out to bid on this project about a month ago. So we were asking for bids on a total of 4 properties, the former Food Fusion restaurant, and 3 properties in the city. 181 Holly Street, 5 Tremont Avenue, and 27 Columbia Drive. And we only received 2 bids. We had 5, right? Show to the pre-bid, mandatory pre-bid. So we're not as surprised that LCP did not bid the job. They have a lot of work going on right now, so it's not surprising to us, but we are a little disappointed that they didn't bid. So Sunstream Corporation is the lowest qualified bid, and Delta is recommending that we enter into a with them for this one.
Okay, 48.7.
48.7 for 4 properties.
And I see, Bill Johnson from Delta, this is always a question I ask Jess.
Yep.
Did our consultant find this to be reasonable? You sometimes wonder when you get maybe just a
Yeah.
couple of bids, like, all right, is that reasonable?
Yeah, he determined it to be reasonable. At 181 Holly Street, there's a significant amount of labor that is going into.
That's the one across from the school that
Yeah.
we're renovating?
Yes.
Yeah, yep.
There's a significant amount of labor that has to go into removing the 9x9, because the 9x9 is under a whole bunch of other type of flooring, so they gotta remove that and then remove the next, and then so on and so forth. And then particularly 7 Columbia Ave is transite siding with lead-based paint, wood clapboard behind it.
Thank you. Questions or comments for Jess on this item? Okay, if not, entertain a motion to award a contract to Sunstream Corporation for asbestos abatement. We have a motion. Chris, thank you. Do you have a second? Mike, thank you. Just gonna start calling out names. Mike, thank you. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries. Okay. The end is drawing nigh. Number 11, resolution authorizing the executive director to enter into an agreement with Broome Community Charities Incorporated for the use of 749 West Main Street, Endicott, New York, 13760. This is the former Food Fusion, Red Lion, Russell's,
This is the former.
the parking lot next to there.
Yeah.
The parking lot, the former motel, excuse
Former
me,
motel.
next to
next
the old
to-
restaurant.
Yes.
And if the board will recall, last year we authorized the tournament to use this parking lot with restrictions, which they agreed to. Do you want to just, share the board?
Yeah, so this is a no cost agreement. We're not asking for any money from the, Broome Community Charities. But they're not going to be charging anyone to utilize the lot. It's for vendors, it's for volunteers that are sporting goods open, things of that nature. And one of the requirements is, well, actually 2, I should say 2 of the requirements is the night of the concert, they have to have a uniformed police officer on site to, patrol the area, make sure it's safe and secure. And then they have to provide us with $1 million of general liability insurance, which is typical of any type of agreement we enter into.
Yep, I actually happened to stop by.
Please have your attention, custodian to the front desk, thank you.
Never a good sign. I happen to be at the property yesterday. I haven't been by there in a while. I stopped in. Looks fine there, but again, it's not exactly a freshly paved parking lot, so it was important to make sure that the general public's not parking there, just people under certain circumstances. I think this is a short-term thing, because eventually you're ever gonna redevelop that site.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, where it's a vacant lot, seems like a good idea to be good to partner with another nonprofit
Yeah.
on it, but this mirrors last year's.
Yes,
agreement.
it's the same thing, just a change of dates.
Okay, any comments about this, questions about this? Yeah.
I would propose that they reserve at least 2 designated spaces for parking for members of the land bank board.
Thank you for the suggestion.
That concession stand very well.
I volunteer at the event too, although the parking lot, the parking lot on the grass next to my friend Lupo is not terrible. And actually, I'm an elk, the Vestal elk too, they run that parking lot, so to Vestal Rotary, Vestal Elks, we gotta come. Rotary, yeah, you guys are overachievers, you get the spot at the tournament for serving food. Thank you for the comment, Mike. Any other pertinent questions or comments about this? Okay, if not, lost it already. I'd entertain a motion, it's right in front of me. Entertain a motion to authorize the executive director to enter into an agreement with Broome Community Charities for the use of 749 West Main Street in Endicott, under the terms that are listed in here and that Jess just described. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Tony. You know what? Let's go Tony and Wendy. To share the love. Okay, any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that carries.
That's right across the street.
Right across the street. Resolution authorizing the executive, it actually.
You get of a certain age.
Yes. There's accessible parking for people who need extra.
No, there's.
Okay, I will say that our property management company is doing a good job of keeping it maintained. It looks pretty decent over there.
That's good.
Obviously, they'll come by right before the term,
Yes.
make sure we're putting our best foot forward, but way better than what it looked like before, where
Yeah.
there was trees and things growing out of various places, and it looks
Yeah.
a big improvement. If I was a neighbor, I'd be very happy, at least temporarily.
Yep.
So, all right, very good. Item number 12, resolution authorizing the executive director enter an agreement with the New York State Housing Trust Fund Corporation for the administration of a land bank initiative grant to support the land bank's capital programs for 2025 through 2026. This is really good news. What do you wanna,
Yeah,
in
so.
summary, how would you?
Yeah,
explain?
you know, my apologies to the board for not having a, you know, a formal award letter. But with our communications with OCR, our understanding is that our request went before HCR's board late last week, and that it's since been approved and that we should be receiving a grant award letter any day now with a grant agreement, and it very similar. And so we attached, just for your, you know, for you to read if you wanted to, our most recent grant agreement with HCR for this type of funding. And on page 85 of the packet, Rob and I added an anticipated column. And this is what our budget breakdown would look like. So run through it really quick. We're looking at $410,000 for pre-development, $250,000 for property acquisition, keeping in mind that our acquisition for tax foreclosed properties may look a little different, just leaving us a little flexibility there. Building stabilization and rehab, a little over 1.1 million, demolition, 120,000, and program delivery of $100,000. Our understanding from.
Yes.
Yep,
Educate me. Program delivery, what does that translate to?
it's essentially an administrative fee.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So we can use it for.
To manage all of this,
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
To manage all of the above.
So our understanding from HCR more recently has been HCR's board wants to see more standalone units created from land bank initiative funding. So they've kind of opened up, or the HCR staff has kind of opened up the use of these dollars to go into renovation projects, as that's what the HCR's board wants to see. So that's essentially what we're proposing. We're proposing a new affordable homes program in the town of Union. We're hopeful that we can get our hands on a few properties in the town of Union to use these funds towards, potentially partner with the town of Union, potentially go after different types of funding to make that a reality. But as we're nearing the end of our ARPA funds in the city, we gotta, you know, move on and continue our programs all throughout the county. So we believe that's the, you know, the next step.
We have yet to do an affordable home project,
That's
homeowner
yeah.
construction in the town of Union, correct?
You said standalone unit,
Mhm.
what do you?
They want LVI funding to go into a renovation project, like to fund the entire renovation project from start to finish.
Like we've been doing
Like-
affordable homes.
Like we've been doing.
No layering funds by standalone, you just use these funds.
Yeah, which is, I struggle with that a little bit. I mean, I understand where they're coming from. I just struggle with it a little bit because as the board knows, our renovation projects are a little costly. And that money will go like that unless we pair it with something else.
They wanna make sure
Mhm.
that this is moving, right? That's their
Yeah.
argument. They don't wanna wait until we find 4 other funding sources to cobble it together, right? They want bang, bang, bang. Is that their thought process?
That's definitely, I would say that's definitely the staff's intent is to, yeah, so. Mhm.
Which we've been very successful at doing
At
that.
leveraging it,
Yeah.
yeah, and my intent would be to still do that. I mean, my understanding from the staff at HCR is that, you know, they don't have much concerns over, you know, our land bank's ability to do that successfully and quickly. But hey, if they say do standalone units, okay, I can do that. There's no problem with it. I just,
It's not a requirement, it's an encouragement.
it's an encouragement.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a requirement, it's an encouragement, but to your, I mean, we all know that these dollars are very flexible, so that's kind of where I'm still of the opinion that if we can layer it with something else, that's what I would like to, really prefer to do.
Well, we've got under the city ARPA program, we have how many more still in the works right now, Jess? You said this already once today. but-
We've got 4 under construction
Yes.
right now, at various different stages,
Yep.
2 like really soon to be done, and then 2 kind of like halfway through. And then we've got 2 more coming online that's in pre-development phases right now.
Yep.
We're doing asbestos abatement though, so
Yep.
like, so 6.
And then you're still looking for one more there,
One-
right? So we've gotten, and when is the ARPA grant expiration?
We need to spend those dollars by December 31st, 2026, and we're on track.
Thank you. So we've got a host of projects going on there. We want to add in some projects in the town of Union, which we've never done before. And hopefully that will keep the right cycle going between the city, the town of Union, and even ones outside of
Yeah,
the city,
yeah.
because we do have funds
Mhm.
that were obtained via the sale of those former properties too.
Yes.
So, okay.
I'm sorry, I'm reading this, and my apologies.
No, you're fine.
So y'all applied for just 1 million and they're giving you 2?
No, we applied for it's 2 million.
Full 2 more. Yeah, it's up above. If you're looking at page 85, on the
Yeah.
top, there's a red line, land bank initiative phase 2, $2 million.
Yep, so the anticipated column, that's what we applied for. We applied for $2 million. We're gonna be pairing another 2.3 million with it, and then the
Yeah.
breakdown of the expenses below, that adds up to 2 million.
What's the amount? Oh,
That is our previous award.
previous.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep,
All right.
yep, I just anticipate the grant agreement to be very similar, if not the same.
What's great about this, I'm just looking at it now in the same light, I think the TARC is, one, it shows very clearly we got just over $1 million last year, so $2 million is a coup. Number 2, it reflects sort of a reprioritization, maybe it's not the right word, but a redistribution of the proposed fund uses, right? Because we had funds that we were using for our affordable homes program before, and we were backing that up with some pre-development work
Correct. Yep,
through this
Exactly.
grant. Now we're sort of we're using that additional $1 million, if you look at it that way, it's
Mhm.
really going into rehab.
Yeah.
Like it's straight up 1.1 million. The difference really is going straight up into the rehabs while continuing the other work that we had been doing before.
Yep.
So that makes sense, I think.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Are there any questions about this? Good job, Rob and Jess. And thank you to our partners from the state to HCR. They've been really good to work with. I know Crystal's been great for you to work with. You always speak highly of her.
Yeah.
She's very reasonable and pragmatic and practical while meeting their goals of the program, which we share those as well. So good work on that. Any further discussion? If not, I entertain a motion to authorize the executive director to enter into an agreement with New York State Housing Trust Fund Corporation for the administration of land bank initiative grant funds to support the land bank's capital programs for 2025 through 2026. Do we have a motion? Tara, thank you. Do we have a second? Wendy, thank you. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Good. All right. Any old business that we should cover? Yes, Tara.
Following that, so is there any word about the operating grants?
We have not heard anything about that yet. Crystal will be at our conference on Thursday. I would be shocked if that question doesn't come up at some.
Everyone there will probably ask that question, right? Yeah.
I'm sure it's gonna be a question that comes up in some form or fashion. But as we know, I mean, HCR they've been so good to land banks. I think they'll drop the request and will be expected to submit it in a week.
Is there money, there is money in the budget.
Yeah.
The final cut.
Yes.
Alright.
And the age of localities, so it's there, so I anticipate that would, that they'll come out with a new round. I just think that they were focusing on these capital funds first, and that round has since closed. So I think the operating funds may open back up soon,
When does our current operating fund agreement
August.
expire?
like the middle of August. So,
That's pretty tight. then.
yep, so keeping in mind, there's a few things we can think about if there's like a lapse in any way, shape or form, or if that funding isn't, renewed. So we're requesting $100,000 program delivery fee from Land Bank Initiative, so that's $100,000 that we could use during the term of the grant. And then we're requesting or we're receiving an administrative fee on each project that we deliver under our ARPA program with the city, $10,000 per project. That we could utilize, and then there's a very small sliver under VRP, but there's funding to get us through under
Keep the organization
existing, under
Yes.
existing grant agreements, and then we do have fund balance, which I don't like, but it's there.
We have that there for a reason.
Mhm, it's
Yes,
there. Mhm.
okay, good question.
Sorry, one last one. BRP, we only have a certain amount of contractors, right? So that's what we're limited by in regards to the applications that can be approved in a batch.
So, sort of,
How many contractors do we have?
on the list, we have, I think we have what, 14?
It's about a dozen or so.
Yeah. So
And
it's,
applicants aren't limited to
no,
that. They can use
they can use whoever they want. so long as
target area
they-
construction if they wanted to.
So long as they meet.
That help them, it help them if they do, but
As long as the contractor has the qualifications, RRP is certified, they have the required insurance minimums, things like that. But yeah, we don't wanna,
no, they can't use, we're prohibited from.
we don't wanna
No self-dealing on the board.
bid these jobs or quote these jobs all at the same time, because then we run into the chance of no bids or not enough bids or whatever. So we kind of want to, just like our renovation projects, kind of stack them a little bit, just so that we can actually deliver the projects. So,
So I don't know what the bids are all gonna come back around,
huh?
49,000 or 74,000.
Of course they are.
Uh-huh.
I mean, but
Yeah.
our manager
Mhm.
is making distinction between essential needed versus. Okay.
Correct. So that's another thing to keep in mind. These units likely will not look like our completed affordable homes.
Right,
Like, we are doing repairs and improvements, we are getting them into a state where they are marketable and rentable.
insane,
and
yeah,
safe.
yeah.
So
Okay.
they're not gonna look like a 52 Beethoven Street. That house
Right.
is beautiful.
But the good thing is,
Yeah.
to Tarek's point, I mean,
Mhm.
we have two construction managers here, there are three, maybe not two, that are under.
We have two under contract, but Sheila has like a team of folks who are
Okay.
working for her, so.
So we have people that do this for a living that will be working through all those kind of things. And I think, part of that's gonna be them reviewing a bid too, to say, okay, that's not reasonable, given what.
And
you're
Sheila's
supposed to do.
phenomenal.
They've both
Yeah,
been
from
very
my-
good so far. I trust them fully.
Yep. A side note on Sheila for a moment, she is working very closely with Jerry, at First Ward Action Council and First Ward's THIP program. So she's writing the scopes for that program, bidding those out and things of that nature. So there's parallels between the two programs. They're a little different, but they're similar in a way. And side note on the TIA program, we received an email from our rep at HCR today, Dan Stevens, who's also overseeing the THIP program. First Word Action Council has received enough applications to, send their funding out the door, but my understanding from Dan is that home headquarters, is having a little bit of trouble receiving applications. And the 13904, 13905, zip codes within city limits, so, Rob and I plan to put a Facebook post up, just kind of calling interest to that program, although we have our own programs, but it's good funding and it's available, and home headquarters is seeking more applications, so we'll put a quick Facebook post up, and I just wanted to let the board know that there's funding available in that program through home headquarters, and if you know of anyone or want to spread the word about it, it's there.
Good. One thing I forgot to ask earlier, and you may have already mentioned it, unrelated to all of this, maybe you mentioned it in your executive's report, I might have got distracted for just a brief moment. Have you made any progress or is there any update on investments?
So, yes, so we invested $500,000, in a 3-month CD, 4% interest on it.
So, yeah.
We invested it on May 5th.
Yep.
So our first return should be Sure does.
Great.
So I'll let you guys know how much interest that we received on that, and I should be meeting with, NBT's, government banking representative to talk about an investment cash sweep. So we can kind of have NBT manage that. I do have some interesting statistics that Brian, our intern, found out from reviewing all the land bank's, financial, audits of, how much interest some of these land banks are earning on their investments. We're talking 33,000, some of $40,000 a year, things like that. So Mike, thank you for making that recommendation. I don't know why we didn't do it sooner.
Rob, if,
That's great.
I know you're on this, but if you just ensure that the minutes reflect that report and what the specifics are, and I think that should fulfill the report here, and the minutes should fulfill the requirement for the director to inform the board as to what we're doing investment wise.
Fully.
That'd be perfect. Thank you. And then 3 months from now, when things, or if you're doing a ladder or whatever it might be,
Yeah.
just add it to your report. That'll cover it. Good. Thank you, Jess. Thank you, Rob. Board members, is there any other
Space.
old business? Oh. Really?
I was gonna- do we need to
I'm
do
just
something
kidding.
about that, grant program? Do we need a motion on that? The
Mhm.
rest,
I got a motion of Tarek.
Oh,
Now vote on that yet?
I guess sorry, we
Did
did.
we vote on that, Rob?
I have you guys voting on it, yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you. Wouldn't be the first time we forgot something. That would be not great. Okay, we voted on everything. Old business, anything further to come before the board? Caitlin, when's next meeting? It's a trick.
June 17th,
What's that?
June 17th.
June 17th, right here. Thank you.
Same back.
Any further, business to come before the board? If not, I entertain a motion to adjourn. Tom, thank you. Chris, thank you. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you. Yes. Getting up and
Getting up and leaving.
That was a trick, Caitlin.
Uh-huh.
A trick.
Yeah.
Nick, yeah.